So when y and x both increase, it has a positive correlation. But when y decreases and y increases, it has a negative correlation, okay? Or there's simply no correlation at all, alrighty? So for example, on this one, it clearly has a positive correlation. It's just, where is Jimmy going? Has Jimmy been a good boy? Is he going to heaven? He's positive. Or has Jimmy been a bad boy and he's not going to heaven? He's somewhere else. Then it would be negative. So this is nothing new. It's just, instead of a straight line, they are scattered points. Okay? That is the only difference. And then, of course, you have something like this, where you can really not tell if it's going up or down. Then it's no correlation. Okay? So if it's going up, it's positive. You guys already know that. If it's going down, it's negative. And then the points are all over the place, then it is a no correlation at all. Alrighty? Alright, so let's do the first one. So describe the correlation shown by each scatter plot. Alright. What kind of correlation would that be? Very good. So this is a positive correlation. What about this one over here? It's a negative. Stop talking, please. It's a negative correlation. Alright, so let's see and prove that when y goes up and x is up, then it's positive, but when y goes down and x goes up, then it's negative. Alright, so what is your domain on x's? Where does it start? What's your domain? Just give me a ballpark. Come on. Where does it start? 38? Okay, what is the domain? Come on. Where does it start? My goodness. What number is that? We can't read a graph? That's not 38. This is 40. How could this be 38? You're looking at your y's and not your x's. I said domain. Where? Where? You guys don't have anything. No, you don't. Oh, yeah, you do. I'm sorry. Yes, it is 38. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am very, very sorry. I did not mean to yell at you when you guys were right. I am so sorry. You can yell at me now. Do it like you mean it. All right. I'm sorry. All right. So it goes from, yes, 38 to what? To about 160. So are the x's going up or down? They're going up, right? What about my domain? Oh, I'm sorry. Not domain. What about my range? The range starts where? About, yes, about, I still don't see the other 2 points. I better draw them. All right, so it starts about 35 and it goes all the way to about 160. So are those going up? Yes, they are. So when you have 2 thumbs up or 2 arrows going up, the relationship is always positive. But look at the x's over here. What is my domain over here? It starts where? About 38, and it goes all the way to? Okay, so is it increasing or decreasing? The x's? Where does it start? The x's start where? At 38, and they go all the way to 160. They're increasing. They're not decreasing. What about your range? Where does it start? 550, and that one goes all the way to 160. So this one is what? Decreasing. Very good. This one is decreasing. Very good. So see, one up, one down, the relationship would be negative. Yes, ma'am. All right. Now, okay, Darnisha, let me send you in a minute. I really don't want anybody to miss this part. I'll send them in a second. All right. Now, the only thing that's going to be different, you guys, instead of during the summer, we didn't talk about correlation, but we did talk about positive and negative and going up and going down, and we talked about scatter plots. Now, so now we have the word correlation. That's the one thing that is different, that some data does not have to have a correlation at all, but there's something that's extremely important too, and tomorrow you're going to watch a video that's going to show you how to calculate it using the graphing calculator. But it's the correlation, I'm sorry, I can't read it, correlation coefficient, okay? That is determined by an R, and it tells you how strong or how weak that data is related to each other, okay? So something like this has a positive correlation coefficient. Something like this has a negative correlation coefficient, and something like this has a correlation coefficient of 0 because there's no correlation. They're all over the place, okay? So the correlation coefficient is closer to -1 when it's negative, when it has a negative slope. It's 0 when it's all over the place and there's not a line, or it's +1 when you have a positive slope. Okay, so that's called the R. The closer that it is to -1, the stronger the relationship is. The closer that it is to +1, the stronger that relationship is. Okay? Would you think that there's a strong relationship between the hours that you spend studying and what you will get at the end of the year on the STAR test? No? So you think that you don't need to study all year long and you're still going to make it on that test? I don't think that makes any sense, does it? All right. So the more you study, what do you think will happen to your grade? The higher it is, right? It should be, because everything in life is a direct proportion of how much work you put into it, okay? So that would have a positive correlation factor closer to 1. The more I study, the higher my grade be. All righty? So let's go to the second page. All right, tell whether the correlation coefficient for the data is closest to -1, -0.5, 0.5, or 1. All right. First of all, what kind of correlation do you think this has? It's a negative. Very good. It's definitely a negative. Now, would you say that it's closer to -1 or closer to -0.5? Okay, so I'm going to say it again. The R is how close or how strong that relationship is between that data. I don't think that's a -1. Why do I say that it's not a -1? Because is the data close together? No, it's not. Now, it's clearly negative because it's going down, but it's the data, this is data that's close together. Do you see the difference between one and the other? All right, so I'm going to ask again. This definitely needs to be negative. Is it closer to -1 or is it closer to -0.5? -0.5, thank you very much. Why? Because that data is not really close by. Now, what about this one? That's closer to 1. Very good. To +1 because it's going up. It has a positive slope. Now, what about that one? All right, so what if it's random, then what kind of R does it have? 0. Very good. The R over here equals 0. Very good. All right, for each scatter plot, tell whether the data has a positive correlation and negative correlation, and approximate the coefficient the correlation coefficient to negative 1, 0.5, 0, and so on, okay? So let's start with positive or negative. Is it positive or is it negative? Or no correlation? It's definitely positive. Very good. So this is a positive correlation. What about that one? Most definitely negative. And what about this one? This is no correlation. It's all over the place. So there's no correlation on that one. Let's talk about the R's. What would it be closest to? 0.5. Definitely not 1. Very good. So 0.5 because it's going up. It's a positive slope. What about this one? Negative 1. Not 1. Negative 1. And what about the last one? R equals 0. Very good. Are we good? Yes? Alrighty. Alright, let's go to the white and the green. So you can put this away for a second. We did the first page front and back, correct? Alright, so this is what you need to do. Go ahead and start cutting the green. Start cutting the green, please. And do it quick. The old lady doesn't need to do it before you do it. I have bigger scissors, yeah. We find any excuse, any, to justify the fact. Yeah, so because I'm 41, I've cut longer. Is that it? I'm faster because I've had more experience. Let's go, let's go, let's go. See, this is why we take forever because, oh my God, we talk instead of cut. What is wrong with my babies? See, Miss Marine is done. Of course. And I'm talking as I am cutting because I'm fussing at all of you. Boom, boom. Somebody finish. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Shh. Cutting, cutting, cutting. I'm about to start. Are we done? Oh my God. Come on, come on. Time's a wasting. Brianna, did you find the little Ziploc bag? Did you find the little Ziploc bag? All right, I think that we should start. All right. So what is a scatter plot? What is a scatter plot? It's a graph. Yeah, really. You know what? That's good enough. It's a graph, definitely, right? So it's a graph that consists of scatter points. You need to go get it on day one. Okay, so it's a graph that consists, that's an S, I'm sorry, of scatter points that relates to sets of data. Well, let's put compare. That compares two data sets. Stop talking and copy. How are they used? They're used to predict. With these lines, you can predict what will happen if the trend continues the same way. Okay? Yeah, to determine what kind of correlation and predict values in the future. Okay, so it's used to determine correlation, and we have three types of correlation. What are they? And no correlation at all. No association at all. Very good. Sometimes it's called association. Negative association, positive association, right? To associate means to compare, right? We associate in this classroom because you're in the classroom and you guys are talking to me and I'm talking to you, right? So we relate to each other. We can correlate. Okay, so they're used to determine correlation and predict future values. That's the most powerful value they have. So if the trend is, I don't know, that 3 million iPads are going to be sold this year, and then next year it should be a little higher, right? Because they keep getting popular, because they keep bringing the new versions, right? So the trend is for it to go higher. Then you can predict in 10 years from now how many iPads or whatever it is that it will be called. Probably not iPads, because they used to be called iPods. Now they're called iPads. But it did the same thing, right? It was just a lot smaller. So what we need to do right now is figure out what kind of relationship do these things have. Okay, what about A? Does it have a negative, a positive, or a no correlation at all? I would say no correlation. Very good. So glue that there. All right, talk to me about B. That most definitely negative. Now tell me, R closer to 1 or closer to negative 1 or closer to negative 0.5? Thank you. They're very close by, so this is a negative correlation. So that needs to be glued over there, right? Oh, that's so smart. That is so so darn smart. All right, what about C? It's what? Positive. Now, if you had to decide for an R, what would it be? Point 0.5. I would definitely say point 0.5, and that one would be positive. All right, what about D? Positive, most definitely positive. And if you had to decide on an R, what do you think? I think it's a little bit higher than point 0.5. Yeah, we can say point 0.7. We're just estimating, right? It's okay. Or closer to 1, right? You can say R equals 1. It's closer to 1 than it is to positive point 0.5. All right, what about E? Most definitely no correlation. It's all over the place. What about F? Negative, and it's definitely not equal to -1, right? It's definitely closer to point 0.5. What about G? Negative, and it's definitely not closer to 1, right? H. What about H? I gotta do my ABCs in Spanish. That's so sad. Positive, and then of course I would be no correlation. Notice what I do with no correlation, right? I just make a circle because I really cannot make a line. That's kind of my cue. Are we good? Yay? Yay, yay? Yay, 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 yay? No? Yes, we got this. All right, I'm going to stop this.